Yo, it's Arkin and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over a brief overview of how I made my EDM Rocktronic single Still Standing. And if you like more of this video or want to see more of this, please let me know. Like and subscribe for more, and let's get into it. I'm still standing. I'm so patient, picking up the pieces of who I once was. First thing is I wanted to shout out the featured artist and vocalist on this track, Kai from the band Late 9. They're from the Boston area. Amazing vocalist and amazing band. I originally just had an instrumental of this track and handed it off to him, and he gave it back to me with all these amazing vocal layers and harmonies, and definitely wanted to give him a shout out because he definitely brought this song to life. And here's a little snippet of what we will get into. I'm still standing. I'd like to clarify that this is more of an overview of everything, of how I go about making this style of music, and less about every little processing detail, but I will try to cover some of that along the way. So the main elements that make up a EDM Rocktronic song are going to consist of acoustic and electronic drum samples, guitar, bass and sub, synths, effects, and vocals. So next is the drums, and I will talk a little bit about how I go about using the acoustic drum samples versus electronic drum samples and blending the two styles together, because that's very important when making this style of music. But first, let's start with the verse drums. All this consists of really is an acoustic kick sample along with a percussion layer, and then this little snare rim and snare tail I like to add, which kind of sounds like this. Kind of gives it just some oomph and flair. That is basically the verse drums, and then that will go into the build up. So the next thing is the build-up, and this is where we start mixing the acoustic and electronic drum samples together a little bit, going into the EDM drop. And so here's a little bit of how the build will sound. The build-up is mainly just me layering an acoustic snare along with a more stadium clap. Kind of adds to the intensity of the acoustic snare. So together they sound like this. And then I added a kind of a marching loop that I had from this Travis Barker sample pack, and it kind of just adds to the build-up as well. And there you have it. Next is we're going to talk about the drop EDM drums that we use. So here's what makes up my drop drums. I have a very punchy kick to start. Then I have a very punchy snare added with this snare tail that I like to add to give it a little bit of a flair. So this is what the snare group sounds like. Then I like to add my cymbals and crashes together. So I have some rise and cymbals. Basically like to give it more of a real live drummer playing feel, and so it's not like this very robotic feel. It feels more like a drummer's playing, and that is the vibe that you want to go for. So next is the guitar, and this is a big element to the style of music, and I like to blend my guitar with some electronic sounds as well, similar to how we blended the acoustic and electronic drum samples earlier. So this is how the guitars are sounding currently. And as you can see, I like to program some of my guitar, and then I will go back and record it and add my own flair to it. The key about recording guitar is make sure you do 2 takes so you can pan left and right. That way you get that stereo widespread. That is mainly that with the guitars, and I will show you a little bit of how I do my guitars in my drops as well. So for my drop guitars, I like to add pretty much like a harmony or an octave along with the main chords. So this is how my drop guitar is sounding. And as you can see, I have drop low, which is my lower octave. And then I will have my drop high, which is my higher octave. And then together. So the next thing is going to be the bass, and for my verses I like to use more of a rock styled bass, so I use this plugin called Low Key Bass, and it is amazing, and this is what this sounds like. And then going into my drop bass, I'll go with a more sub bass layered with some gritty bass synths, and I tend to stack my bass synths. Some will be more centered, some will be more wide to kind of fill in that space, and this is what my drop bass group sounds like. For my verse 2 bass, I go to an 808 rack, which is mainly just following the kick pattern up here. So that's very important that whatever your kick is doing, that your 808 follows it. So this is what my 808 sounds like. So next is the synths, and I'm going to play the synth group in the drop. So yeah, similar to how I did my bass synths, I like to have a more centered layer along with some more wider layers. I also like to have higher octaves along with lower octaves and things like that. So all together it kind of makes this full sound, right? And I also like to have a detune group of synths along with a gritty, more distorted group of synths. So here's my detune layer by itself. So yeah, it's very high and kind of has that pretty sounding, but then to give it some more of that grit, that's where these come in, and this is what this sounds by itself. If you play these again together, you get these, and then I'll start adding what all the others sound together with the synths. So next are the effects. So I like to kind of include some vocal atmosphere layers to go in the background with the main vocals and some kind of like vocal choppy call response kind of thing. It really adds to the fullness of everything and fills in any space with the vocals. And here I added some glitches, kind of go with this like hyper poppy sound, and added some downlifters and risers and things just you can do to go into each section, right? Like you need that transitional effect, and it really can make or break a song if you don't have it. Okay, so next we're going to get into the last and final element, and that is the vocal group. And I'm going to play the vocals by itself right before the drop. In due time I will start healing. I'm still standing. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of layers going on. If your vocalist can give you all those layers, that's great. In which he did give me a good amount, but I also added this other layer, and I used one of my favorite plugins called Harmony Engine. I basically just duplicated the main vocal layer, and put it on its own track here, and put Harmony Engine on it. Make sure it's in the same key of the song, and also have to make sure that the input is on mute right here. You can get some really cool effects and extra layers that way, and this is how that sounds by itself. In due time I will start healing. In due time I will start healing. I'm still standing. So yeah, it can really make extra words towards the end of the phrases really come to life if you add that extra layer here, and that's kind of what I did a little bit throughout the verses. And I'll play the vocal group now from drop section. I've been so patient, picking up the pieces of who I once was. Now I'm lost in time. Something is changing in me. So yeah, as you can see, there's the main layer going on, there's doubles happening, and that's basically taking whatever he's saying it 2 more times so I can pan it left and right to get that extra wide stereo spread. And then we have harmonies, and then another harmony engine, bring out certain words and phrases in the drop as well, and kind of adds more layers and makes it more full that way. And now here is also the vocals with the effects, the vocal chops. In due time I will start healing. I'm still standing. I've been so patient. So yeah, that concludes the vocals and the final element to making an EDM Rocktronic song. Hopefully this helps, and thank you for watching. Here's the final product. See you next time. Peace. Look at stars from the back row, stare at satellites from the rear view. Used to have a life that was brand new, until reality sank in. It hurts to know that this is all I'll ever know. One step too close, got me so low. Seen this before. I've been lost in these bad habits. They're all I know. In due time I will start healing. I'm still standing. I've been so patient, picking up the pieces of who I once was. Now I'm lost in time. Something is changing in me. Feels like I'm living a lie. I'm just wandering by. So here I am, I've got my answers, and I'm far from my best. Scar after scar, I ask again, how much time is left? Can't lose this, I've come too far. I did not changing memory.
Stars from the back room, there were satellites in the rear view. We used to have a light.